All right, we've both figured out technology, which is amazing. I've got a home studio, as you could see. It's in my bedroom, and you are. First of all, where are you right now?
We're in Silver Lake.
Cool. This is Mikel from Airborne Toxic Event. So they floated me a brand new single from Airborne Toxic Event, and we've been playing it on 88.5 FM for just like a week or two. It is that new. The song's called "Come On Out," and like we're in the position right now where we can't afford to play like a snoozer or a bad song. So thankfully, the song sounds great, man, and we're happy to
Oh, thank
support it.
you. Thank you very much.
My
I'm
pleasure.
glad we passed that test, the snoozer test.
Who right? Who are you holed up with? Is it just you? Are you seeing friends
No,
and
me with my
family?
wife and my kids. We got two young kids and my wife, and we're in here in Silver Lake Hills, and yeah, we've been quarantined for a while because our kids were sick and we were trying to keep them home. So we actually add 3 weeks onto the quarantine for us.
So now you're doing, homeschooling type of thing, I imagine, because
No, they're
spring
young.
break would have ended by now, right?
Yeah, we have a three-year old and a 3 month old, so it's just it's a lot of
Wow.
like playtime.
Wow. I got a 2-year-old in the next bedroom, and my wife has to work from home as well. So it's a tough struggle, man. I don't normally admit it to my staff, but it's impossible to put in an 8-hour workday these
Oh
days.
God, how could you?
No, it's
Yeah,
crazy,
it's
man.
insane.
So listen, the more and more that I read about this new record and memoir, because there's a book coming out as well, the more and more I become intrigued. The record's coming out on May 8th, and
The record's been moved to May 22nd.
oh, okay. I guess that was my next next
Yeah,
question because of the
that's okay.
crisis, I imagine, right?
Yeah, well, we had to move because they couldn't manufacture the books. So we thought we were going to maybe have to move it, but then as it turns out, my book was the last book printed at this factory. They got shut down because of the supply chain problems. So we like barely. My publisher called me. It's like, we can get a van there in 2 hours. We're going to be good. I was like, I'll drive myself. I'll get some shady cousins. We'll break into the factory. It's fine.
Right. um, while maintaining social distancing.
Right.
Hollywood
Right.
Park is the new record from Airborne Toxic Event. Also, the book is called Hollywood Park as
That's
well.
right.
It's been about 5 years since the last record from you. Did you start writing the book immediately after that, or has this been something that you've been working on for quite some time?
Yeah, I wrote it during the off period. About 4 or 5 years ago, my father died, and we were real close, me and my pops, and so it was like it just hit me really, really hard. And I'd been on the road for about 8 years, and I kind of collapsed, and I spent about 9 months where I hardly left the house, kind of like now, but just anxious and sad and depressed and crying every day. And when I kind of came to, I wanted to write a book. I knew I wanted to write a book about it. And I started writing all these songs. And at first, they were just these very sad songs about my father dying, and it was weird. It was it was kind of like I needed music again, the way I did when I first started the band, and before that, which music had always been. Before it was a career, it was just a way I dealt with the world. It was like you write a song about something, and then you kind of look at it and sort of in it, and you want to kind of get lost in it because it helps you to kind of understand this thing that you're going through, and you want to, for some reason, making it into art puts some distance between you and it, and it feels good to do that. And so I started writing all these songs, these really sad songs, just to kind of deal with my dad's death. And then I started writing the book, and I set out to write one book, and then I ended up writing this whole other book that was a much larger book in scope than the one I originally set out. I
Yeah,
think I
this
set out
is
to write like a 30,000 word, kind of like short sort of novella length memoir, and it ended up being about 500,000 words or something.
Yeah,
Edited down a lot
you
of
must
it.
have sent out advanced copies to some people because the reviews already by some really respected, people in the industry, they've been saying some really wonderful things about this book, Hollywood Park. You touched on the fact that, you started writing music and of course, playing music could be quite therapeutic. Does it ever feel like a job to you at this point?
I think it did for a while, and it doesn't again. Like, I think when I first started, it wasn't a job. It was just like this dream that I was pursuing and trying to, make come true. And then maybe it became a job for a while. And it was like, there's all these music industry people that are like, let me tell you something, kid, you got to write me a hit. Get me like Lionel Richie, Dancing on the Ceiling, 1982. I need a hit. Give me a chorus, a pre-chorus, middle eight, an outro, and a refrain. Okay, can you do
Sure.
that for me? You know, and then there's like, all right, I guess I'll try to write you a hit. And it's like, but meanwhile in your mind, like, I hate you. I hate everything about you. I hate everything you stand for. I don't want anything to do with any of this. And I think for a while, it was sort of like that was the standard. And then when my dad died, it's like the whole thing fell apart. And I was like, you know what? I can't think like this. I never have been good at thinking like this. And I just got to write music for the reasons I always wrote music, which is it helped me to think about the world, and I loved it. And so it's back to not being a job. I mean, the book definitely wasn't a job. I mean, I didn't have an editor, I didn't have a literary agent, I didn't have a publisher. I just wrote it alone. In this room, I wrote it alone in this room. I sat here for 3 years and just wrote.
Wow. And then you sort of just shop it around and see who wants to publish it type of thing.
Yeah, well, I had this moment where I was like, because there's this thing where it's like people like, well, do like a chapter and then a 20,000 words in an outline. That's the idea. And then you find someone who wants to work with you and publish it. And then somewhere in my head, I was like, you're a writer, go write your book. And so that's what I did. And it was like way, way harder than I thought it would be.
Really? But you must be in a good headspace just as an artist with all of this kind of coming to fruition right now, with music coming out and the memoir and everything, and to be able to think of a concept and bring it to fruition is probably an amazing feeling. So it's nice to hear that you're doing well, as an artist and a writer. Did you've written for some publications in the past, from what I understand. I think even the LA Times, right?
Yeah, I had I was on NPR. I was on All Things Considered. I was like their young, edgy guy that would talk about, edgy. I'd be like, those guys that come on All Things Considered, they're like, what's the deal with Republicans and blue ties? Why is blue tie the color of conservatism? Oh, and then, like, I was one of those guys, but I was like their edgy guy that kind of,
Sure.
And then, can I say that? Can I say that's
Sure.
And then I wrote for the LA Times. I had a short story published in McSweeney's. I had a science column in Men's Health called Physics for Poets. London Times. I wrote for a lot of places. That's what I did for a living for before I started again.
That was your previous day job. So what came first, writing music or just writing?
I've always
writing.
When I was in high school, I got my first guitar and I started playing chords. And my first thought was I got to write songs. It wasn't. I was never one of those guys that was trying to learn, all the riffs. Those guys that can just wail from day one and they're in their closet trying to get the Hendrix riff exactly right. I was just like, I got a guitar, learned some chords, and the first thing I did was try to write a song. And I was always like the writer in the English classes and stuff. And it was always something I knew I wanted to do. If you had asked me in college what you want to be, I would have said I want to play music and write. And people would say that's not a career.
Right. Oh, two thriving industries, right? At this point, right? Like, I think I'm so important running a radio station. Gosh,
No,
in fact, when this all went down, we were thinking, when this all went down, we were thinking, how great would it be if, we got like a top tier sort of act or band to do a concert on the radio, no big crowds, no big congregations of people or anything like that. Sure enough, all these artists are doing it on their own, and they're doing it on the internet. They're not doing it on the radio. Yeah. It's crazy. But we're doing this with a bunch of artists, and we've done already Nicole Atkins, the Indigo Girls, Hamilton Lighthouser from the band The Walkmen, and we have so many coming, which is great. And it's really nice to get a glimpse of how people live, with their living room or home office in the background. It's amazing, man.
Yeah, some of them you're like, oh, that looks nice. Some of them are like, y'all need to clean.
Right.
Like, just the clutter. Just get the shirts off the couch. You know what I mean? It's not that hard.
We did one with an artist yesterday on 420, and you could only imagine what was in the background, in that shot. Again, this is Mikel from Airborne Toxic Event. I don't even know if I need to do that for the radio, but this is a visual medium, so I don't know if I need to even do the call letters or anything. You're in Angelino, going back forever?
I was born, so this is part of what my book's about. I was born in this place called Synanon, which was a cult. It started as a commune, became a cult. That's one of the things I write about. And so we lived there until we had to escape. That's where my book starts. It starts on the day we escaped. It turned violent at one point and we had to escape. And then we lived on the run for a little bit. And then we ended up in Salem, Oregon, kind of hiding out from the world, I guess. And then I would go back and forth between my mom's place in Salem, Oregon and my dad's place here in LA. And then when I was 11, I moved to LA full time. And went to junior high and high school.
So that's, you say the word cult, like, very nonchalantly or whatever, but that's essentially, some of
Wasn't
the
my
subject.
decision.
What was that?
I was 3. I was 4. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have much to say about it. Nobody asked me.
Yeah, yeah. That's definitely some of the subject matter in this book. And is it with the new record from Airborne Toxic Event? Is that the same subject matter you're kind of
No.
talking about
The
throughout your
record
music?
is the soundtrack to the book, and every song on the record is from a scene from the book. So you've got sort of a one-to-one, and we sort of thought of it as a movie soundtrack, except it's a book soundtrack. So if you were to just hear the record, it'd be like a concept record, which is sort of connected by storytelling. And I'd say for the record, we were really going for, I think the North Star was like The Wall by Pink Floyd or Final Cut or something that has this narrative arc start to finish, and particularly this idea of like you're incorporating kind of historical events with your kind of childhood, let's say trauma, whatever that you get as a result of those historical events. In Roger Waters' case, it was the death of his father in World War II. In my case, it was escaping the cold, and then to some extent Vietnam, my dad being in prison and things like that. And then kind of mapping it as you get older, trying to synthesize these things. As you become an adult, particularly an artist, and you spend a lot of your life trying to make sense of these things. And so the record is kind of like it catalogs that journey start to finish.
That's amazing, man. What are you doing now to kind of pass the time? I mean, you put all this effort into, this art, which is what you're sharing with the world very soon. But I imagine that there's a lot to write about right now. Are you writing? Are you reading books? How are you passing the time?
Yeah, I just read Pretty Things by Janelle Brown, which is a really good mystery thriller book. She's a friend, and it's a great book. Before that, I read The Mars Room by Rachel Kushner, which is also a wonderful book. So yeah, I read a lot. We're getting ready to put out this book and this record, so there's a lot to do, which is good. It's good to have a purpose right now. I think a lot of the time I'm just kind of angry. I'm angry about what's happening in the country, and I feel like the fact that we live in this country it feels like a failed state at this point. It's the arguments you have to have about basic facts, basic science, basic I'm my roots are leftist politics and punk rock and folk, and so obviously I'm on the left, right? But I feel differently about Trump than I did about George W. Bush, H.W. Bush, even Reagan. Like these people, we have big arguments about abortion or about I don't know, taxing tax structures and stuff. But the basic facts, of science. If George W. Bush, as much as I hated George W. Bush, if he was president right now, he'd be like, well, you got to test everybody. You got to do that, obviously. If you don't test everyone, how do you run the country? Like, as much of an asshole as he was, he would still do that. And we're in this position now where instead what we need is, massive 5 million to 10 million tests a day. And then they need to isolate the sick, and they need to trace who they came in contact with. That's the only way we can open up the country without 1 million people dying. It's the only way to do it.
Dude,
and we're having an argument about facts of science, and it's insane the level of the iron grip that right-wing propaganda has in this country, and it's driving me crazy right now.
Dude, it's almost like a premonition. The name of the band, the Airborne Toxic Event, and to think what's in the air, right now is crazy. And our kids are young, but if this is the new norm, then this is all they are really gonna know, as they get older, and it blows my mind. And that's crazy that we're living in these times, and I know you feel that with young children and everything. Do you discourage them or encourage them to get into the music business?
Oh man, I'm just gonna be the biggest cheerleader for whatever they want to do. That's my
Sure.
job.
Yeah.
My job is to believe in them, love them, be a safe place for them, and just whatever they choose to do. I'll probably try to, let them know, like, just do it with all your might, because because that's probably the best way to work out. But, you know, that's between you and the world. You know, I'm
Yeah.
not really here to be the guardian of how you think about the world. I would tell them, I would just want them to be around, you know, I want them to come see me on weekends and hang out with me and their mom and know that we
Yeah.
love them and take great joy in their existence, stuff like that.
How's the band doing? Is it the same band that's been intact throughout these years? And of course, you are chief songwriter and band leader.
Yeah.
Where are your bandmates now, and who's in the band?
So it's a different lineup because Anna left, our violin player, about a year ago, 2 years ago, depending on where you. I spent about 2 years trying to convince her to stay, but she had her own dreams she wanted to pursue. She runs Girls School, which is a all-women festival, rock and roll festival. That's kind of her baby. It's become this whole other thing that's a series of art projects, and she's just brilliant and amazing. And so I was sad that she left, but, you know, I encourage her to follow her dreams, and I would never hold her back because as a friend, I just admire what she's done and what she's able to do. And I get why she wanted, you know, kind of a bigger challenge than just, you know, being the violinist in my band. So, so it's just the four guys that were left, and there's Adrian Rodriguez, our bass player, Stephen Chen, our guitar player, and Darren Taylor, our drummer. And we had this moment about 2 years ago where we all said, listen, you know, we have this kind of brotherhood around this idea of we just want to make the best possible record we can make. And I know that sounds trite, but, you know, the idea was that we were like, we know enough about music, what we were raised on. Let's like not worry about trying to make music that we think other people might like, or we think that like could lead to some whatever. Just fucking, sorry, I'm not supposed to F-bomb. Just make music that you love. And, you know, we were raised on the Pixies and, you know, The Cure and David Bowie and, you know, Pink Floyd, and these are our bands, Radiohead and Elliott Smith. Like, let's make something we love, and that's what we spent 2 years trying to do, making Hollywood Park.
Bro, that's the playlist of 88.5 FM. I know you live in town. You got to listen from time to time. I think you'll be digging on what we're doing. It's a not-for-profit public radio station, music 24/7. You know, it's a lot different than what it used to be, a much more modern leaning sort of AAA format.
I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I've heard wonderful things about what you guys are doing.
Right on. Appreciate it. We're raising the brand, bro. And it feels like we're doing the right things.
You absolutely are. I'm not even joking. Like, I've had multiple people talk about like that you guys are becoming an important station because people are paying attention to just the taste.
Well, that feels good. So, you know, it's hard to sit down and even read a book with the family and everything like that. There's this book that I've been meaning to get to. It's another memoir. You know, Mike Doty, the band Soul Coughing in the 90s. And he wrote a book. It's called The Book of Drugs. He's a sober guy now. But just meeting him and following him and listening to his music throughout the years, that's on my shelf right now, and I've been meaning to get to that. It's funny when I was
have a lot to say. I mean, I always would say, so I was raised around the program my whole life, AA and Al-Anon and Al-Team and all that kind of stuff. And I would say like some of the best storytellers in the world you can find in an AA meeting. You know, like they're not giving TED Talks. I mean, maybe some are, but like there's these great storytellers that have the beginning, middle, and end and a redemption, and they got the jokes down. And you could do a lot worse as a writer than having spent like half your life in the program. I mean, there's some wonderful stories. And my brother, he's in recovery. He's 12 years sober, and it's one of the things I write about in the book because he was a heroin addict and alcoholic and all these things. And he's clean now. I'm very proud of his journey. But he always jokes, he's like, the AA meetings are good, but CA, Cocaine Anonymous, whoo! Now those are the best stories.
Oh my goodness.
Actually, if you want to laugh your ass off, go to a CA meeting because those guys, and women, they have it down. And I've gone to some of the meetings with him, and he's right. He's right. It's like a bunch of raucous people who just kind of love life and are just trying to stay clean, and they're working hard at it. And they're doing it with like, it's like the happy warrior, man.
I imagine some of those
stories.
Some of those stories are probably inspiring, and some of them are crazy, as you say.
Well, all the best stories are both. All the best stories have a dark twist, right? And the really good ones, you're not sure if they're true, but you know that the story, like the emotional impact of the story is true, whether the story itself is true.
I used to work with a guy who was a big radio DJ back in the late 70s and early 80s in Chicago. And that was pre-YouTube, pre-Spotify. If you wanted to listen to music, radio was the only game in town. So DJs were larger than life, And the stories, bro, each one kind of trumped the last, and each one was freaking unbelievable. He also worked on the label side in the music business, you know, when that was thriving. And, you know, all the stories, you know, have to do with cocaine.
Yeah.
One day he flew in back to Youngstown, Ohio for his high school reunion, flew in on a helicopter, and his date was a Playboy playmate. Yeah, that was back in the day. I missed those days, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not editing on reel to reel or anything. When I got into radio, everybody was on Pro Tools by then, you know,
Yeah.
type of thing. It's okay. And I'm barely employable at this point if it wasn't for radio. I don't know what else I would do,
Yeah.
frankly.
Good. Well,
Um,
you found your home.
yeah, it's extremely fulfilling. Station hasn't missed a beat. We're all doing shows from home, and it feels good to, you know, our we've been kind of positioning ourselves as being the musical oasis during this crisis, and I think that is really resonating with our listeners and our members and stuff. So that feels pretty good. Dude, there were some shows that sold out on them almost immediately for Airborne Toxic Event in Los Angeles and New York. Those got postponed indefinitely, I imagine. But there is a show, and I wrote it down up here. It was at the Greek Theater, I believe, in October. And
Nice.
hopefully, God willing, that still happens.
Yeah.
And when that happens, hopefully you'll be able to come in with the band, and, you know, we could do this in person and
I'd
maybe
love
get
that.
a
Yeah.
in-studio
Of course.
session. That'd be great.
Absolutely. No, that'd be great. I'd love to. I just like want to get back with my band. I haven't seen those guys like a month, 2 months.
Have you
We
considered
were
doing...
rehearsing hard too. We were all set to go do these
Right, I bet.
residency shows, and they just kind of.
You ever consider doing anything remotely via, I don't know, Zoom or something, where you collaborate on a song?
Like maybe I do a solo thing like that, but like with the band, it's just too hard to like. All right, count it in, and then there's like a delay, and then one guy like freezes, and then it's like, oh shit, there goes the drum, and you know, it's like it's.
I know.
Rock and roll is, you know, rock and roll is live. Rock and roll is in a room, and rock and roll, you know, a good rock and roll show is part revival, part circus, you know, and part confession. And it's like, it's hard to do that, you know, on Skype.
It sure is. And then you're asking a bunch of guys, you know, who might not be tech savvy to try to figure it out. And that's a whole nother thing, you know, it's tough. Okay. Hollywood Park. It was going to be May 8th, and the release date is when now?
The record comes out on May 22nd, and the book comes out on May 26th.
Awesome, man. I'm so intrigued. It's great talking to you. I feel inspired to do good things and to embrace art. Anything else to touch on before we kind of wrap it up?
It's great what you're doing. So yeah, you're doing an important thing. People need you.
Thanks, my man. Take care of your family, and can't wait to hear more off the record. And congrats to you on all of this coming to fruition and sharing it with the world.
Thank you very much. I'll see you down the road. We'll set something up.
All right, man. Thanks again.
Goodbye.